Well, hey, hi everybody. This is like part two or something. I saved this big moment because we've printed a very large part on this Cobra 2 Max, and I thought, well, we'll wait till we get it off the build plate. It's nice and cold now, so it should come off pretty good. But there it is. Yeah, this is the new part that will replace that broken Craftsman plate. Drew this up in Plasticity, so hopefully it all works good. But I think we're going to have some. What the heck? It's loose. Okay, I don't have to. Wow, I thought we'd have a struggle getting that thing off that build plate. Okay, let's get this over to the bench so we can get on it. Well, everything was looking good. Here's the piece I printed up, and here's the old piece. And unfortunately, there was a mistake made. The mistake is, I understand how and why the mistake happened, but it does change the model. The situation here, I'll show you what happened. As you can see, there's basically, I'll just hold it up like that, and you can see there is no back end here. So what I did was I measured back here, and it was kind of like, well, we'll guesstimate, you know, and the guesstimate was off by about 5 millimeters, which is technically about 1/4 of an inch. So everything is off by about 1/4 of an inch from where it should be, including, well, even through what I did with the holes, because I measured the center to center on these holes, but coming back this way, again, there was no way to, you know, get a good measurement. So off the back, so the back is wrong, so that threw the front off. So yeah, the whole thing is, it's close, but it's like, you know, let's see if I can do this or not, I don't know. I'm a little bit picky, I guess you could say, with particular things with this sort of thing. And if I hold it just right, see if you can see that the holes line up. I mean, they absolutely line up with the original piece. So that should, and technically, crunch, crunch, crunch. You can hear the old plastic. Yeah. So that should line up with the chair, and it's metal. It's a metal chair, obviously, and there's some slop here. You know, this whole thing moves around a little bit, and so it's off, but it's not off. So if I line it up with the holes here, it actually is off just enough. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, it's off just enough that it's kind of nasty. It's kind of stupid, and it's really shameful, because if I had left this back here with more meat on it, we could have recut these holes back a little bit, and it would have been fine. So what I did was I lost this part here. I didn't have the original dimension, and so when I line everything up on the drawing, I goofed it. Yeah. So I put the four bolts. I think I lost a washer. Nope, I've got all the washers. Okay, good. I'll put the 4 bolts in the holes with the chair so that you can see, you know, take a good look at that. You can see everything fits, but it's tight. And I guess you could say for that part, I'm kind of disappointed, but like I said, there was a mistake measuring the tray. And when I came off the edges of the tray, I measured in with this. And again, I had to speculate because most of the meat here is missing. And so when I did my dimensions, I'm off a little bit, and I'm disappointed because I really thought I had a very accurate measurement and put it on the drawing. So the drawing's not the problem. Plasticity, not the problem at all. This is PLA, not a problem. What did go wrong was a couple things here. This metal part of the chair is a little bit loose. So if you push the metal together just right, this will bolt on. So yeah, but it is tighter than it should have been. This should have been a little bit sloppy right here with the fit, and it's not. But that's fine. You know, we can live with it. Now I'm going to screw this on, and as I said, coming up, please hang on. I'm going to show you why we've changed our PLA and who we use, and I'll tell you who I am using right now is I'm actually couple of things I'm using is Anycubic PLA. You know, that's not expected, but Anycubic PLA is not showing any problems with the modeling, and I am having a problem getting these started again. Oh wow. We'll get these fairly snugged up, and like I said, there we go. Okay, so she's tight, and there she is, and now she has her little tray again now, but now this is on top instead of set down inside the tray. There's really, let's face it, what's the difference? Who cares? You know, it's like, there's a tray. So just a lot easier to deal with. So we did a repair. Now I'm going to set this off here someplace. And what I do want to show you next was I'm going to show you the difference between the PLAs, and I'll show you what's happening. But we're going to close up here, and I'm going to show you two products. It's the same product, but it's a different PLA, and there's a difference in the warpage. Well, as I promised, this is Overture Easy PLA, and I've been able to buy this really cheaply when I first got started 3D printing on a production basis for clients. And this is what's happening, and I'll just sort of push that. I don't know if you can see the movement there, but that thing is warped. Yeah, and basically this is, I hate to say it, it's garbage. You know, you can't use that. It's got to be dead, or at least very, very close to being very, very straight. Any warpage like that will throw the modeling off, and the client is going to be very unhappy with it. So we've moved up, and we tried different PLAs from different companies, and I went through a lot of different brand names, and I went from $15 a roll. This is about $22 a roll, but this is from Anycubic, and there's almost no movement here, but it's this model here, you can tell it's absolutely dead straight. Where this one here from Overture, I'll see if I can, oh yeah, you can look at the rocking on that thing. I mean, that's unreal. That's just, you know, it looks minor. If you're modeling for yourself, you're making this for something around the house or something, you probably wouldn't care, you know. But if you're doing it in production mode for a client, you probably would find really quickly, you can't have this. You just can't do it. So that's a shame, but it's something I wanted to show you guys because not all PLAs seem to be the same, which you would think it should be because the formula for making PLA should be the same, but the quality does make a difference. Now, I'm going to get jumped on about this a little bit, but we tried to control the heating and the cooling situation to make sure that this didn't happen, because what's happened here is this top has cooled quicker than, of course, the bottom where the plate was staying hot. So what happened is, you know, it's sort of sucked in, kind of like wood would do when it's drying or something, and you get like a, well, you've seen the 2x4s at Home Depot, you know what I'm saying. It twists and gets all kinds of, you know, gets pretty gnarly. And this is just bad enough. This is just on the edge of like, yep, not acceptable. And that's a shame because this ends up having to be thrown away, and it's just wasted time and material when you get, you know, this much, yeah, for your money. But this was at great price, and I was really attracted to it at first, but when I started seeing this kind of problem showing up in our modeling, I says, we gotta fix this, there's a problem. So we started working on cooling, the PLA, you know, I tried everything else I could think of to control this down, and what I found out was that by changing product name, you know, different brand names, I found out that, yeah, this is all nice and straight right across. This is not doing anything like, this is laying absolutely flat on this bench, so I'm not having a problem with it. So it's just something I wanted to point out and show you guys at some point, because I really am kind of disappointed that not all PLA is exactly the same. Just because it's on sale doesn't mean you should buy it, I guess. Depending. If you're doing this for yourself, you don't care. But if you're doing it for a product that you're shipping out to a client, then you may want to, you know, heads up and say, wait a minute, let's take another look at that. Also, the other thing I did try was an enclosed chamber type 3D printer, that kind of thing. We tried all kinds of experiments to see if we could get away from this warping problem, because really what it is, it's the cooling. But the other problem we had down the road, which was kind of sad, was the one specific situation I could think of. The guy actually left this the tooling for this out in the sun, and of course this thing turned into a pretzel because it is PLA, and that's what PLA is going to do. So that was another issue that we sort of went back at and said, okay, if the client demands a better process and a better quality of something, we will go to, you know, like this idea where we'll go to a better brand, or PLA Plus and or a PETG, or even ABS, ASA, whatever we need to get away from the problem. But at the same time, the price starts to reflect the product. And in order to compete in today's market, you've got to make this thing dirt cheap for the client. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to have any business. So yeah, lots of fun there. And the quality is, you know, it's kind of remarkable that it would just be that much different. And this actually comes off the machine a little bit cleaner. Of course, it has a little bit of a shine to it, which the other one is very dull, black plastic looking, whatever. Not a big deal about that, because what the client's looking for is this right here. They can't have that bounce in there with this thing rocking back and forth kind of thing. They just cannot do it. So it was like, well, you know what? I guess we'll change. Now, I haven't tried, this is one that we just showed because this is what we made the tray from. And this stuff here, I have to admit, it's a large model I just made, but it didn't work. And this is just PLA. It's not PLA Plus, again, but it's from Deeply. They seem to have some really nice stuff. One thing I did notice about the Deeply that sort of threw me off a little bit, this feels a little bit more, I'm going to say flexible, almost rubbery consistency to it than most PLAs that I've run into it. It feels like a good high quality PLA. So if this was to cost more, but if it gave me the proper modeling that I need like this without warping, then I would say, you know what, it's worth it to spend those few extra dollars, because at the other end, a roll, you know yourself, a spool is going to make, you know, 100 of these crazy things. And so you can absorb that extra, you know, $3 or $4, $5, whatever it is, a spool. But it's really, when you get into production modeling with 3D printing, I tell you, your life changes. Yeah. One of these days we'll have to make a list of the differences when you just have a hobby or home 3D printing for stuff around the house or novelty items like I have up here on the shelf right now. It's really, when you get into 3D production mode where you're like supplying clients and stuff, the perspective it's like life-changing. All of a sudden, you know, it doesn't matter if I have to spend an extra $5 a spool to get, well, that's what this stuff's about, $5 more. But it's just so much more worth it because you know you're going to get product. And also the other thing that's really intense is how much product per spool, you know, am I getting? How does the price need to be adjusted, that kind of thing. And as you heard in the past, I have several machines in here right now that I would never have purchased for, say, a hobbyist or anything like that, but because they will, you know, work perfect for production, we're using them. We have those machines in here. In fact, one of them, the machine that makes this is actually the Cheedy Max 3 is what produces this, and the reason for it is the enclosed chamber, which helps to control cooling before the product is taken off the build plate. Yeah, you know, it's just, yeah, little things like that that just absolutely, I'm not going to say life-change, altering, whatever, but your whole perspective, your view on 3D printing completely changes. I was really excited about Bamboo Lab when they first came out with their machines, and then I was kind of excited this spring when the H2D was announced that it was coming out, and I thought, man, what's this going to be? You know, this could be the one I want to buy. And as it turned out, it was like, no, it doesn't fulfill the requirements I have for 3D printing, so therefore the machine, no matter what the price is, it's like, no, it's just not worth it. Elegoo just came out with one that was really neat, and I think it's 250 by 250 build plate, and again, it was like, that's a great machine, great price, has some wild features, and I think they call it the Centurion, I think is the name of the model. Anyway, it doesn't fulfill anything for me for a 3D printing farm, and I'm really surprised because when you think about manufacturing these machines, such as the Bamboo Lab or whatever, or Elegoo or Anycubic, Creality, any of those, you would think they would want to hit hard on companies that have 3D printing farms because they're going to buy the machines up in massive numbers. You're not selling one machine to a household. All of a sudden, one client is ordering, you know, 10 machines, 50 machines, 100, whatever they need. So you would think they would try to hit that market. And same with the software. Oh, the software, the slicer software. We've bitched and ranted enough about that. We don't want to talk about the slicer software. But the problem down the road is, you know, it's like they don't seem to really go for the appeal to the 3D printing farms. They seem to just do the guy's going to buy one from you and he's going to take it home. It's going to be a hobby. One of these days we'll come back with a list of what changes when you become a 3D print farm as opposed to when you're just a hobbyist, you know. So you go through almost an evolution of changes that are just, I'm surprised, because a lot of the things I was interested in, a lot of things I was going after, it's like you totally change the road that you're on to a whole new perspective of, you know, what these machines can do, and the price of the machines, the price of the filament, you know. And the first thing you don't want to do, which I did, find the cheapest filament and then find out it might be cheap, but it's not going to do the trick, you know. It's like, wow. And so spending a little bit more on it, I just ordered some filament in. I paid $22 a spool. That's high, you know, considering what I have been paying in the past. I was getting the spools as cheap as like around $14 a spool, and it was like, but the stuff was that was coming off the machines had to be tossed in the garbage can over and over again. So I was like, well, you know what, we won't buy $14 spools anymore. We're going to have to look for brand name spools, good filament that's going to give us the projects and give us, you know, the products we need to get to the clients that are happy and be done with it, kind of thing, and just move on and eat that little bit of extra dollar per spool, whatever. Yeah, but it really, like I said, there's a lot of I guess we'll call it growing pains for a business sort of side of it, because you really have, it just changes everything. And I guess one of the things that really threw me off this spring, this year, was Bamboo Labs' new H2D. Was a really exciting machine, and the very first thing I needed to know was the build plate about, say, 400 millimeter by 400 millimeter, something in that range, where it would be totally, you know, enclosed. It'd be a nice machine, great price, that sort of thing. And if anybody knows about the H2D, they take their heads and they just, like, you know, no, it wasn't. The build plate was too small. It wasn't even square, which are really, you know, Cheedy did that a long time ago. They have an enclosed machine. It's the 3D Max, and it has a build plate, I think it's 300 by 250. And again, do you know how frustrating it is to try to work with a build plate that's not square? You know, it's like, why did you do that? But Cheedy had an enclosed machine, cooling fans and whatever. Okay, it didn't have all the gobbledygook stuff that the H2D has now. Also, it did not have anywhere near that price tag. But the thing was, with the H2D, I was really anticipating that Bamboo Lab was going to come out with a real ground-shaking, I guess, marketing, like, whoa, machine that everybody was going to, you know, respond to it, and, oh, I've got to have that or something. And instead, they did things like, oh, it can also have a laser, you know, and it has all these cameras and stuff. I'll tell you the truth, again, with 3D printing farm, I don't have a camera on those machines. I don't, because I don't care what's happening. I just want to see the product at the other end, you know. I don't have time to look at 50 machines and see what the cameras are doing on each machine to see, oh, everything's going, oh, I know, that's good. No. And if I want a laser, I'll go buy a laser. I've mentioned that in the past. But I'm having a problem with plasticity again this morning. Trying to cut a hole, and it's like, oh, man. Trying to make sure that it understands that this is the solid, this is the cut, here's the cutter. I want it to go through the model and cut it, you know, and I'm having a terrible time with it. Maybe Skywalker will help me out on that one. I don't know. It's I got all my holes cut and everything except one, and then for some reason that one has just come to just stopped, you know. It's like, I'm going to try some more tricks with it and see if I can get that program to work for me, because once we get it working, I know it'll be fantastic for me, and it's a great price for, you know, great features. Broke this a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Just twisting it around, because this is going, yeah, this is going, unfortunately, to the landfill, I guess. It'll break down in 200 years and, you know, be recyclable, whatever. I guess with the landfill, I guess this will join it, because we no longer require this piece either. Anyway, hey, thank you for watching Coffee and Tools. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the notice bell. We'll be back with more. Right now, over and out.